Hey guys, and welcome back to The Legend of Zelda Spirit Tracks. Welcome to the Marine Temple. We had to go literally under the sea to get here, and we had to also do a lot of bullshit to reach this place, but we have been rewarded with what is probably the most fun dungeon in Spirit Tracks thus far, and I especially like the gimmick you get, and the item with which you utilize the gimmick. It's pretty fun.
I super agree. I love this dungeon. It's a great temple. I like that it's the Marine Temple in this version, because Ocean Temple kind of just reminds me of Temple of Ocean King.
Yeah.
Like, it's a little too close, so the name change for this one makes perfect sense, but this dungeon is really fun. We're going to get a really good item. The boss fight is really good, and this dungeon is pretty streamlined. Like, there's no complicated, tedious parts of it. Like, this is a really great water dungeon. Like, this is Swamp Palace quality water temple.
Yeah, and what's funny is it's barely even a water temple, really. Yeah, it's technically under the water, but water factors in very little to the puzzles here. It's mostly bottomless pits.
And that's why I kind of said it's more of a Swamp Palace. Because even among, like, the Link to the Past games, like, Swamp Palace doesn't have as much water as other ones. Or, no, it has the most, but it's not a huge aspect of the dungeon's design.
Right.
It kind of influences one or two rooms. As opposed to, like, you know, with 3D Zelda games, Water Temple and, what's the one from Majora's Mask?
Give me a sec. Is it Ocean Head?
I can't remember. No. Wow, we're dropping the ball here. But anyways, 3D Zelda water temples, those tend to be more in terms of, like, going into water, using water, being in water, and that's just, it's part of that the perspective of those 3D games. You know, like, they take advantage of the fact that you can now go up and down all along the Z-axis in water. When it comes to 2D Zeldas, not quite as much.
No, but I love that, like, flaunting of tradition. Make a water temple without water, they said. Crazy, they called me, but I pulled it off.
He did it. The man's a genius.
So yeah, what we did there is we followed a very simple puzzle where you get the answer on the floor below where you have to input the answer. And yeah, you can see the solution there. Pretty simple. And closing off that thing above, open that thing there, and bada bing, we can actually pass safely now. These fawns require the dungeon's item in order to get past, so we'll leave that for now. We'll smash open these jars, literally play commentary right now, and we'll go upstairs.
So, to interrupt that play-by-play commentary, Great Bay Temple.
Thank you. Yes.
I can't believe I couldn't remember Great Bay Temple. It's tough, guys. There's a lot of water dungeons. There's a lot of bays. There's a lot of dungeons, guys.
I think we might actually be getting the dungeon's item, like, right now. Yeah, look at that big arena-looking section in the middle of the room.
The design of the dungeons is pretty telltale. It's simple dungeon design. Again, this was developed more with coders and designers than like level designers.
Ah, not cool.
I see we are like, this is too kinky for Zelda. I feel this is not appropriate for YouTube. I will be marking, flagging, and reporting this video for lewd things.
Look, my second name isn't Paul, alright? Cut me some slack. Yeah, that guy with, like, the beady eyes and the feather boa or whatever always made me a little bit uncomfortable, but we have his bondage weapon now. I shall take it. This room will take forever to open all of its doors, and then we'll get the treasure chest. Come on, I got a life to live here.
I'm just saying, domino masks have no place in the Zelda universe. Like, you want to cover up your face, you wrap it with bandages like the Sheikah did. Also, here's our Mother 3 reference item.
Yep.
Got the rope snake. I like it. Whips in games are kind of a unique thing. They're either really, really bad, or they're really, really good. Castlevania's got a good whip.
Oh, yeah.
This game's got a good whip. The Wonderful 101's got a good whip. And I feel like this whip works similar to the Wonderful 101 whip as well. Like when we saw the thorns, the whip is used for the same thing in that game as well. Usually when enemies are spiky, you can take their spikes off with the whip.
Oh, of course. And Kirby obviously has the whip or the lasso power-up.
Yep, the lasso. I forget it. The rope snake talks in Mother 3, doesn't it? Yes, it does.
You are asking the wrong person when it comes to the Mother franchise.
I was gonna say, like, does it talk? Of course it does, because how else would that game make you cry even more? It's like, it has to talk to you. That's the only way characters can cry.
Does your weapon die or something? What's going on?
No, just... It's a sad game that kind of revolves around one death, and it just keeps going back to it, but it pokes it. It pokes it in, like, a really gross, like, ow, that hurts kind of way.
Yeah, it touched an exposed nerve. Okay, no. Grab the one that is farthest from your grasp. Will do.
Now firmly grasp it.
Firmly grasp it!
It's one of the best old SpongeBob jokes. That one and, I like the one when he meets Kevin. When he idolizes Kevin so much. He's like, I was your biggest fan. So were they.
Yeah, God, that one rings a little bit too true, honestly.
I didn't know this was a hat. It wasn't.
Jesus, the pickles were under his tongue the whole time, etc., etc.
That one's awful. That one gives me customer service PTSD. Holy shit.
Oh, this isn't just commentary. This is advanced commentary. Okay, enough quoting SpongeBob. I feel we can progress now, but overall, in terms of like weapons you can get in like Zelda games, how do you feel the whip was used in the Marine Temple? Because personally, I love it. Like, you do so much with it. Like, you can transfer stuff from point A to point B. You can fly across the gaps, you know, using it like a grappling hook of sorts, and it's just a lot of fun. So it is.
I really like it. It does make the dungeon really item-centered. So for some people, they could... Because I've made this critique before, where some dungeons just feel like a tutorial for the item to get you ready for the boss fight.
Oh, yeah.
This dungeon isn't quite there. Like, yes, you are using the whip a lot, but because you're using it for so many different things, and even the way you end up using it for the boss is not the same way you were using it throughout the dungeon, that helps. I just hate where you're just doing the same thing throughout the whole dungeon, and then that one same thing is the exact same way you fight the boss. Like, that's where, like, the dungeon just becomes a tutorial. But this dungeon does not, just because the boss and the way it's used throughout the dungeon and for that fight are two different, and it just makes the whip seem way more versatile than it actually kind of is. The whip is just very situational. Like, if you're using the whip, it's because they designed the puzzle to be used by the whip. In combat, it's helpful as well, but... I don't know, like I said, I like the inclusion of the whip. It's part of the charm of this game. The fact that they didn't have to make it a rope snake, and yet they did.
I'm honestly surprised they didn't give Link, like, a whip in Breath of the Wild. I'm sorry I keep going back to that. But, like, obviously the dungeons in that game revolve around the Sheikah Slate. It's not necessarily you get an item, prove you can use it to its fullest potential, and then boom, you're, you know, fighting a boss that's only weakness is that item you got. No, it's mostly you just have to kind of use the weapons you have and survive.
Basically. That and, oh, what was I gonna say about the... In the 3D Zeldas, so it's not in Breath of the Wild, but there is a whip in Skyward Sword.
Yes, of course there is!
And it works in that game as well, honestly, in terms of, like... with the motion control aiming and how the whip, how it is more of a grabby whip than a crack whip. I feel it works pretty well in that game as well. I've noticed that I have less and less problems with the controls of Skyward Sword as I go back. They're still bad, but less mad about it though.
I wouldn't even call them bad. It's just like they work 95% of the time, but 95% isn't good enough when it's like the only, you know, thing stopping you from dying against a boss and having to re-record and having a nervous breakdown.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is like, because I look back and obviously my memory is mostly gonna be of when the game was working. So it's like, yeah, when the game works, it works. But it's like, well, wait a minute, it does. When it's not working, it's horrible and your Wii is melting, and your childhood is burning before your eyes, and you're wondering, why did it come to this?
Very much so, very much so. Now, I believe this is where I used to get stuck all the time in this particular temple, because it's another one of those, the answer is above, but but you've got to input it below sort of things. Well, actually, in that case, it's a reverse of what happened at the start of this dungeon. Like, the answer was on the bottom, and where you have to input it is the floor above. But there was a lot of going back and forth back in the day. This time, I remembered to take notes.
Good. I mean, that's how I record video games.
Well,
Who knew that studying and taking notes would help you be rad, cool gamer?
Oh, okay, Mr. Man. Let's see what we're working with upstairs. Ah, another ambush. Who could have seen this coming?
I did. I also know how this dungeon works.
What are these exactly? They're like translucent chews.
Yeah, they are a little weird, because this dungeon is super chewy, just because, hey, it's the water-based dungeon, so here's the goo enemies. But yeah, they are a little different. And they're just called helmet chews, too.
Huh. Wait, isn't there already, like, a breed of chew in this dungeon? Just red chews that wear helmets? Isn't that a bit confusing?
Well, it's kind of weird, because there's blue choo-choos, the yellow choo-choos, and then the red ones that wear helmets are just called helmet choo-choos. But when you take the gear off, then they're red choo-choos. It's sort of the whole snail slug thing.
Also, those, like, silky coloured ones are the blue choo-choos, then. I was getting a bit mixed up there.
Yeah, they're either blue or yellow.
Okay. They're lean, they're mean, they turn your tongue green.
Right, the enemies, I do like how in this game that they carried on the fun character designs of Wind Waker. Like, they very easily could have just reused all of the enemies and just like not made anything new. They could have, and it would have worked. Some people may have pointed it out, but not many people would honestly care.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact they decided to make new designs, and I feel that they are still in line with the fun of Wind Waker. I mean, hell, like I said, we just had a dominatrix boss fight there, so they're still silly in that weird way. I like that. They're not as emotive, but that's just, lower graphic quality, but I feel like their designs are still fun.
Yeah, that's just a limitation of the system and not the failure of the game designer. Okay, X marks the spot this time around, guys, so while you're on this floor, visit the various, subsections of the room, get rid of this motherfucker, completely miss your target, it's fine, he doesn't really seem that interested in me anyway, and just make notes of where the swords appear, in relation to where they are downstairs, because you'll have to match these patterns to the ones when you go back downstairs. Jeez.
Watch the Legend of Zelda Spirit Tracks playthrough, where Tom reveals who's going to give it to him.
X is going to give it to you. I'm completely unrelated to that, but I reblogged a thing on Tumblr today where it's like Ice Cube riding the Goodyear blimp. And it said Ice Cube's a pimp. My favourite remix of that is the one with KK Slider, Animal Crossing. It's so good.
That is, dude, KK Slider mixes are sometimes bop jams.
Mm-hmm, very much so. Still haven't announced an Animal Crossing for Switch. Are you ready for Nintendo to make even more money when they do?
I am. Yes, just because I have yet to get into Animal Crossing and I would very much like to.
Oh, okay. Well, pick up, New Leaf cheap in the meantime then. That'll get you up to snuff. Up to speed, even.
Does it matter that, no one else is playing it? Because I remember, everyone was playing it when it first came out and everyone was playing together. So I just wasn't sure if Animal Crossings were more social games or if it was okay to just play Animal Crossing, all alone.
It's better with people, but you can play it alone, for sure, because you're the mayor of the town. You're meant to be, taking care of it. Why can't I hit these fuckers? There we go.
It's the most convoluted way to attack an enemy, is pull the magical wall sword out, not with your hand, but with your rope snake whip, and then not use the sword, but then throw the sword with your rope snake whip. Okay.
Why not? Why not? Okay, making a list, I'm checking it twice. Opening up the map. No, something that rhymes with nice.
Ice? Ice baby?
I don't think there is an ice temple in this game. I think there was one in the last game.
Well, we had the Blizzard Temple. It was snow.
Oh, of course. Wow, I've got a really bad memory. We haven't recorded Spirit Tracks in a while. You're going to have to forgive me.
Oh, man. When the hiatuses get Kingdom Hearts tier.
This was only a couple of weeks. We're never going to have another 9-month thing again. Don't you worry about that.
An entire human being was made!
Multiple. Hundreds of thousands of beings were born. It's not just one.
Jesus. We've created a monster.
Alright, now to repeat the patterns we just saw.
This part's kinda weird though, you know, feeding this. Just the fact that the fish, like, they gasp, like their mouths move, that to me is pretty offsetting. And then you feed them a sword.
Kikoki.
Like, I wouldn't really call much things in Zelda games creepy or even scary, but I don't know, fish statues gasping for a sword to be shoved down their throats in the wall, it's kind of up there. It's kind of Lynchian.
Please don't say Lynchian. I've seen that word so many times on fucking TV. Don't.
Yeah. Well, can I use it since I've actually watched Twin Peaks several times over?
Sure, you're allowed to. I give you official permission to use the term Lynchian.
Nice.
He wanted that. He wanted to die via whip.
See, it was all consensual, otherwise he would have said the safe word.
No, the safe word is please stop whipping me.
The safe word is yeah.
Yeah. Alright, in there, almost done. Nope.
See, this is a clever memorization puzzle that you can include in a Zelda game because you have that bottom screen. Like, a 3D Zelda game would not have you memorize this many things in one go. They would have a little sign right next to the fish head telling you which ones. It would literally be the end of BioShock Infinite. Like, these fish heads, like, don't even try to think.
Whee! Oh, so fun.
It's a good animation. Like, they added the nice, like, a right amount of momentum flick at the end that the whip swings are super satisfying.
I sense another wall master or floor master section coming up.
See, we could have had the claw shots in this game, but instead we're just hanging by the rope whip.
I mean, it's cool, I guess. I don't understand why someone would even create that technology in a place that I assume is meant to be for worship primarily.
Yeah, like, okay, the bulb propeller things in Twilight Princess made sense because you were in the sky. Like, everything there needs to be able to fly, or it's gonna fall to the earth. You're under the damn ocean. What are the propellers? Who made the propellers? Did the Locomos need it? Why do they need it? They can just roll around wherever they go.
Ah, but they can't swing. That's the thing. And they can't fly, neither. That's what you get when you tie yourself to train tracks, I suppose. I read a thing on Game FAQs because I was just researching ahead of time. Apparently these guys can't get the key if it's on this bridge, so if you're having trouble, just think of that.
I can imagine that being a programming thing.
And I stutter up the stairs because I keep trying to get the right position to throw the key into the lock, and boom, temple done.
It should be an automatic throw, honestly. Like, just as soon as you're in proximity, Link throws it himself.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Especially since it's an animation. Like, the control's taken out of your hands anyways once the key is thrown in. Just have him throw the key automatically.
Well, whatevs. It doesn't matter.
It's petty. It's Tom Petty.
Why do all the bad things in life have to be named? Or why do I have to be named after all the bad things in life? Tom Petty, Peeping Tom, Tom Brady. The list is endless.
I feel like this playthrough is less inflated than it should be.
Bit on the nose, but I'll allow it. Oh, the door closed! That's only the 50th time it fucking happened.
Who's ready for an awesome boss fight?
I wouldn't call it awesome, I'd call it fairly simple. And yeah, there's going to be an edit here, because dumbass Tom64 kept fucking falling into the water over and over.
Hooray! Is it right here?
It was in one of these sections. I'm not going to say which, it may even be at the top. The trick to this is, let him scream, let him do his screamy scream so the mucus falls down. I guess it's fairly acidic. And then go to the edge and attempt to whip the thing. This right here, it's fine. I was setting up something so I'd be closer to the edge and I could whip quicker.
It's all a frame setup there. He needed to make sure that his position is accurate, and that's the only way to do it. That would save time.
But yeah. Fun temple, and now it's time for a fairly fun boss. Slowly raising up.
I think it's just this part. I love how cinematic this boss is. This is such a... Like, you're right, the boss fight itself isn't as cool, but just the whole feel of the boss to me is... I love it.
Mm-hmm. There you go. This guy reminds me of, is it Porky from Mother?
That, it also kind of reminds me of Wart. All those other Water Temple Zelda bosses that have bumpy bits or bubbles.
I can't help but think they reused a few assets here from, I believe it was the Wind Temple in Phantom Hourglass, because I could have sworn the battle arena was almost the same minus the pool of water in the middle.
Yeah, that and then... Shoot, because what did the arena for the... Not the final boss, but when you were fighting, like, the demon itself. That wasn't a donut-shaped arena, was it?
With multiple levels, yeah.
Ah.
He's not loving that shit. And he's gonna keep spewing more, and more tentacles will come out and stay out. Oh, Jesus.
I know where this is going.
Ugh. Not with barbed tentacles, please.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of a Powerpuff Girls villain. I think
He
that's
does.
also why I like him.
It's like Fuzzy Lumpkins fused with him.
He reminds me of the monster from the music video for The Signal in the Sky.
Oh, yes, of course.
That was the spiky pufferfish baddie who just kept inflating up and getting red.
Yeah, well, you know, maybe you should, stop that. It's not really conducive to being a good citizen.
Right? That's why we need 3 perfect little girls to beat the shit out of them.
Alright, one more round of this nonsense and we should be good to go in regards to restoring another part of the spirit tracks. Again, simple boss, simple dungeon, but easily one of the most fun parts of spirit tracks to me. Mostly because of the whip and its multi-use functionality.
Right? It's so cool. This is not the Dark Souls of Zelda. This is where Zelda is fun.
When you get your inevitable switch, are you going to get Dark Souls? Are you going to hop on the bandwagon?
Yeah, might as well. Because I've watched, like, H-Bomber Guy. He made, like, 3-hour-long videos about Dark Souls and Bloodborne, and I watched them without having played any of the games. So it's like, you know what? If I'm willing to do that, I'm willing to play a hard video game that requires me to get good.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. That temple gave me good feelings in my heart.
I mean, I feel well accomplished as a hero of the track. This Link doesn't really have a title, does he? He's not the hero of time. He's not. He's just Kid.
Could call him Hero of the Rails. That's pretty cool.
Hero off the rails, more like it.
Oh, I don't get it.
It's because the 90s were a time for fighting against the system.
Ah, I see. Yeah. Wait for it. Ah, I'm blind!
Yay!
Why is Zelda covering her eyes?
It's like when the sun wears sunglasses.
Oh, what an aesthetic. Beautiful.
I mean, ghosts don't work. The planet, it moves.
Yeah, I guess so. Another day, another section of the tower completed. Jean's just used to this at this point.
This is probably not even the first time this tower fell apart. I mean, with how easily they were able to get that evil unlocked. This is probably like Anjean's 6th time dealing with this problem, but she's just super nice. And she's like, yes, sweetie, it's gonna be you. You're gonna save the world. It's gonna be great.
I mean, the fucking thing is made out of like Roblox or Kinects or Lego, for God's sake. It's like, well, no, it's more like an IKEA bookshelf, the way you put it together.
I've made at least 2.5 of those.
Huh. That math's not adding up somehow. There's a tale to be told somewhere in that.
You can start with IKEA furniture.
Ah, I see. I love the shade of blue that the Force Gems sport in there.
In the Ocean Realm, they're good. Color is so good in this game.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about Super Blue, Royal Blue Vegeta? Got the name completely wrong just before we end here.
It's a nice shade of blue. It's kind of, what is it? Isn't it Twitter blue, essentially?
It's darker than God Blue. That's all I can remember off the top of my head.
Ah. Because that's a thing, right?
Well, you know, he misses his son, Kabe, and he wants to wish him back. Wait a minute, I'm getting a message here from our producers. That's not his son? That's Trunks? Oh, that's awkward. Yeah, I think we're going to sign off here. We'll see you guys next week for a bunch more The Legend of Zelda Spirit tracks when we're back at the Tower of Spirits. See you then.